What up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to episode 82 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. In this episode, I share a writing tip that I picked up and then read and reflect on some of my free writing, which is located at spuntoday.com/free writing. For those of you that listen to the podcast, you know that I do these free writing session episodes as well as random rant episodes. The random rants are exactly what it sounds like. I speak about a lot of different things like movies and music and sporting events, books, etc. And since this podcast is essentially writing driven, I get into, the writing that brings those types of projects to fruition. Speak about different dialogue that resonated with me, etc. But in terms of focusing on writing, these free writing sessions are, heavier in writing, and pretty much share some of my personal writing, which again is can be found on my website, spuntoday.com. And I pick it apart. In some of these cases, it's something that I wrote last week, or a free writing piece that I wrote, 2 or 3 years ago. And I pretty much reflect on it and see where my head's at now in relation to it, and just share it with you guys. A new segment, if you will, that I'm going to be adding to these free writing session episodes specifically are writing tips. Because I listen to different podcasts on writing and read different books on writing. I follow a lot of writers on social media, which post, ideas and tips and quotes and, different things like that are takeaways for me and that I find helpful and useful. So although I have sprinkled them, throughout different episodes in the past, I wanted to isolate them. And whenever I do have something, worth sharing or something that I feel that someone would get something of substance from, I'll start off the free writing session episodes with that tip. That said, the writing tip that I'm referring to that I picked up on this week is from James Clear. James Clear, for those of you that may not be familiar, is an author whose work has been covered by CBS, Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, Time Magazine, and he's also a photographer and weightlifter. And he has a pretty cool newsletter that I subscribe to. And this is where I got the tip that I wanted to share with you guys from. I'll link to his website in the episode notes, specifically to the article that I'm referencing here. And feel free to check him out. Because again, I'm just going to share the snippet of this that resonated with me. And if you guys want more, obviously the full context of it, it's part of a larger article, so definitely go check out James's website, which is jamesclear.com. And again, the link to it will be in the episode notes, as always. The tip is the difference between goals and systems. And by the way, I internalize this type of stuff as, in relation to writing, but these are things that you could apply to other things and aspects of your life, which you'll see from the 4 examples that are given here. So the difference between goals and systems. What's the difference between goals and systems? If you're a coach, your goal is to win a championship. Your system is what your team does at practice each day. If you're a runner, your goal is to run a marathon. Your system is your training schedule for the month. If you're an entrepreneur, your goal is to build $1 million business. Your system is your sales and marketing process. If you're a writer, your goal is to write a book. Your system is the writing schedule that you follow each week. Now, this was particularly helpful to me in that generally my general goal is to write every single day, and that I don't accomplish that. You guys know I share my little calendar. For those of you that follow me on social media, I share my calendar at the end of the month that has a check on every day that I actually wrote and an X on days that I didn't. I'm usually around like 40, 50, 60% of days that I actually write. And I also gave myself a deadline because I see that I'm lollygagging, if you will. And I gave myself a deadline of completing my first novel that I've been working on, it feels like forever, by the end of this year. But I noticed that although I am making progress with it, just writing down the amounts of days that I write versus don't write isn't a true system. So I had to literally build out a writing goal, a writing schedule that would meet my goal of writing the book, which is my deadline by the end of this year, and see, okay, I'm giving myself this deadline. So what is necessary for me to accomplish that deadline? Which is, okay, I currently have X amount of words. A novel should be floating around this amount of words. So between now and then, I have to, write the difference in words, right? So I have to increase, I have to write, or I broke it down by day. I have to write, something, I think it was like 200, 250 words a day to meet that goal. I also have to add in the editing time and the second draft time, etc. And then following that process will get me to my deadline, my goal. Granted, you can't predict, everything along the way, and shit happens, but generally speaking, that'll get you to or very close to your goal, following an actual system versus just having this arbitrary goal in your mind. And next thing you know, 3 or 4 years pass and you're still working on the same shit. So this tip was eye-opening and helpful for me, and hopefully will be for some of you as well. Like I said, check out James Clear's website, which I'll link to in the episode notes, and again is jamesclear.com. All right, now let's check out some of my free writing. If you want to read along, or if you want to check this out, these couple pieces out that I'm going to share, go to spuntoday.com/free writing. Both pieces are posted onto the website on September 16th, 2017. That'll help you find it easily. And the first one that I'm going to be reading is titled Follow Your Unique Light. And here's what I wrote. The combination of thoughts, experiments, and experiences that it takes to be you in this realm is irreplicable. To allow fear and insecurity to blanket the innate selfishness that is not expressing yourself is a disservice to your evolution as a person and to your influence on the evolution of others. How dare you take that cowardly route? Be you 24/7, 365, and 366 in a leap year. And don't you ever look back. At least not in a questioning or resenting way. We shouldn't have a choice in the matter. Let the light that's inside you shine through. Let it light your path. The path that only you can walk. It's okay to find yourself and figure things out by going through different experiences in life, but it's not okay to find solace and comfort in one of those experiences and pigeonhole yourself into it because of a sense of security among all else. Shake things up until that sense of security that you're searching for is implicit and just part of the package deal realized by the second nature feeling that is living your dream. Follow your unique light. And I wrote that on Sunday, March 23rd, 2014 at 12:03 p.m. All right, so looking back on this, to me, it has some inspiration in it. The whole follow your dream message, but it's missing practicality, which is fine in a sense, because you know every single thing that you read or write or see or watch doesn't necessarily have to cover everything A to Z. This is addressing specifically the following your dream portion and not being scared to. But that is something that stood out to me, because you could read this and be like, all right, but I got to pay bills. You know what I mean? I can't just shake things up and follow my dream of becoming a writer or something because I have to eat. And so does my family, which is obviously understandable. And keep in mind also that most of my free writing, I'm writing to myself. And I wrote this 2014 March. That's 3.5 years ago. So it was around, I've been doing the podcast for a couple months at that point, and starting to take writing seriously. But I still had a job then. I still have a job now that's completely unrelated to writing, which, by the way, I may be getting shipped off to India again next month. And stay tuned for a future India Part 4 episode. But I think it's important to note that just because you have a 9-to-5 or just because you have other shit going on doesn't mean you can't also follow your dream. To me, at least for my specific dream of, writing and podcasting, one day paying the bills, when and if that ever happens, I feel that at least that type of dream is accomplishable in tandem with living your practical life of, having a job, having the security, and all that jazz. You just have to work that much harder. You have to do that much more. And if for example, a successful writing career or something like that could come to fruition for you within, 3 or 4 or 5 years of doing it full time, maybe doing it this way that I'm doing, it'll take, 10 or 15 years, but it is what it is. The way I see it, those 10 or 15 years are going to pass anyway. I might as well be doing something with it. And above all else, if this is your dream, whatever your dream is, you're going to like doing it anyway. So the late nights, early mornings, or, long weekends of, writing, podcasting, or whatever it is that you're into, you're actually going to enjoy that. It's not going to seem like work. You know what I mean? I think an important takeaway from this piece, it also is the part that says to allow fear and insecurity to blanket the innate selfishness that is not expressing yourself is a disservice to your evolution as a person and to your influence on the evolution of others. Now, it's not a grandiose type of, I have to write this for the world and I'm going to change the world type of thing. It's more of as I'm, chasing my dream or perfecting my craft and working on it, finding out and learning more about myself. At the same time, I'm putting out content that, as you guys know, any type of art, if you want to call it that, is a two-way interpretational street. So I can put it out, I can write this specific piece the way that I wrote it, I put it out, I'm reflecting on it now, I'm telling you guys what it means to me. Somebody else could read it and get something totally different on it. That is your influence on their evolution as a person. Maybe you'll write or say something or paint something or whatever that touches or resonates with the other person once you put it out there in a way that you never even intended, maybe that you never even thought to even think of seeing it that way, but it's very real in that way for them. And it would be selfish in a sense to take that opportunity away from them and from yourself. I also particularly like the part of shake things up until that sense of security that you're searching for is implicit, because I believe that if things do pan out, if things do work, and you do quote unquote make it, whatever your dream is, let's use mine for example, writing and podcasting, eventually paying the bills, that security that you are foregoing everything else for now, just doing the regular job thing and not doing anything towards your dream, that security, you can have that then, once your plan actually pans out and comes to fruition, as long as you front load all the work and put in the work. You can and will have both later. And I'm not delusional in any sense. I know there's a very real, very more than likely the possibility of me continuing to write the way I'm writing, podcasting the way I'm podcasting, until I die, with no, and continue to have a job and et cetera, and it never being enough to like pay the bills or live off from or whatever. But I've already made that reconciliation in my mind. Like, that's fine to me, because doing this now, like, is enjoyable. It is cathartic. It is therapeutic. It is everything that I want it to be. Minus the making big bucks and turning my writing into Hollywood movies. But, maybe we'll get there. But yeah, definitely don't get it twisted. Don't drop out of school, quit your job, and just, start following something unless you want to, whatever, that's on you. I personally wouldn't. I don't have the balls to, I guess. And I feel that I'm more like practical than that. And I'd rather work harder, let it take longer to take its course, but still kind of have that that security, that sense of security underlying everything in case shit hits the fan. It's like, okay, at least my ass is covered anyway. All right, now the next piece that I'm going to share is titled "Like a White Light Going Through a Prism." And I wrote, when inspiration hits you, it's probably not a conscious decision. It's more of an epiphany. Let it take its course. Let it ooze out of you in whatever form or medium it takes. Express it however it wants to be expressed. Release it. Let it out. Don't trap it, bottle it up, and allow it to go stale. Don't harbor it and, quote, save it for later. It won't be there later. At least not in the same way that it was. And the best part, it's infinite. Ever expanding. You couldn't waste it if you tried. Ride its wave and elevate yourself and possibly even others for doing so. How great of a plus is that? So whether it's a song, a quote, a book, a line in a movie, an instrumental solo, a laugh, in anything that gives you a momentary glimpse into the self-perpetuating purity that is inspiration, embrace it and run with it. Because although the stream can't be wasted, the moment can be. Like a white light going through a prism and coming out of the other side as an array of different colors. Allow it not only to enter you in that unexpected form, but also allow it to come out of you, expressed in its intended form. And I wrote that on Sunday, February 16th, 2014 at 12:02 p.m. The first thing that stands out to me in this one is me trying to be, poetic with the style of writing. And although I say to myself when I look back on a lot of these that, it sounds cheesy and corny and stuff like that, I like, where's that line? Let me see. I like that line that says, so whether it's a song, quote, book, a line in a movie, an instrumental solo, a laugh, and anything that gives you a momentary glimpse into the self-perpetuating purity that is inspiration. Embrace it. I don't know. I like the way that flowed. I like the way that was written. The underlying idea here is one that I believe I've spoken about on the podcast, but if not, I definitely wrote it in one of my newsletters, which if you haven't subscribed, please do at spuntoday.com/subscribe, where I picked up on an idea, another tip, writing tip of not like holding things back, like when you write. Like, for example, I have, different writing apps and notebook, physical notebooks and stuff, where I would like jot down ideas, and I have ideas after ideas after ideas, and any writer or creative would tell you that ideas that's what comes easily. It's like the actual execution of the ideas or the implementation of them that is the hard part. So you wind up having like, I could go through notebooks and see like quotes and lines of dialogue and just ideas that were literally never used, because like I wrote them down and said, oh, this is good, but it'll work better for a book about X. And when you look back, you didn't use them for shit. And it could just be like a crap idea that would have been, whatever, nothing. But always keep in mind like that difference that we pointed out before, which is, something that's crap to you could be amazing, life-changing for someone else. And it shouldn't be on you to make that choice of not allowing to put something out there. Now, I'm not saying, anything and everything that you write, just fucking put it out there in the world for everyone, and, the shittiest things without thought and etc. You should have your own internal filtering process and dedication to craft and pride in your work, but make sure you don't reach that point of diminishing returns where you're just not putting out anything because it's, quote, never good enough. I like the idea of the white light going through a prism. You guys have seen that like on, I don't know, like science projects or shows or movies or whatever, where like a white light goes through like this crystal prism, and out on the other side you can see the spectrum of colors, the Roy G. Biv or whatever. And I feel like creating is like that. Whenever like you write, for example, you have an idea for something, and as you're writing it, it starts changing and morphing, and you're following the characters down the paths that they're going in. And a lot of times you wind up with an end product that is not what you initially intended. So what you initially intended in that metaphor would be the white light, and the end product that's completely different is the prism of colors that comes out on the other side, which would be the final writing piece. And I got to take this advice myself as well, but sometimes you got to trust the process. Let things be what they're intending to be. Especially like at the first draft level, which is something that I struggle with, because they're like every like top tier writer that I've read or followed or listened to interviews on, like they always say, like Ernest Hemingway comes to mind, saying the first draft of anything is shit. But they always have this, just get it out there type of mentality, especially for the first draft, because that's what a second draft is for. That's what editing is for. That's what a third draft is for, and a fourth draft, and a polishing draft. But as young writers, myself included, and by young I don't mean necessarily by age, just like young in the writing game, we get stuck on, editing as we go, which they say is horrible. It's like poison to writing. Like you shouldn't edit as you go, because then that's where you wind up getting paralysis by analysis and just never putting out shit. And because you keep rewriting the first draft over and over again, and it's going to change regardless. From beginning to end, it's going to change. It's going to morph. It's going to go through that prism of coming out as something different on the other side. So if you write a quarter of it and then you go back and start editing and changing shit, it's different already. So then when you get to a quarter of it again in the new different form, then you're going to wind up going back again to edit and back and back and back. And it's just going to be like a vicious cycle like that. So they say to let it out, let it take its, what I'm referencing here as its purest form and its intended form, and just put it all out there. Then once you have like that completed first draft, for example, go back and do your second draft, do your editing, do your third draft, etc. But at that point, you'll have a more holistic picture or view of what your story is. So that plays into the whole don't harbor it, meaning like don't harbor ideas and quote unquote save it for later. It won't be there later, at least not in the same way that it was. And the best part, it's infinite. So the ideas, like I mentioned before, are a dime a dozen. It's the actual execution of them and how they come to fruition that's the hard part. And that's what I'm referencing there, that it's like an ever expanding pool of ideas. And then later on, I tie that up with, because although the stream can't be wasted, meaning that, stream of infinite ever expanding ideas, the moment can be, meaning the moment in time where you either decide to jot that idea down for quote unquote future use and then look back 3 years later and realize that you never used it, or that moment in time where you take that idea, flesh it out, and try to use it, implement it, and put it to work right away. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on that. Happy writing to you all, folks. I hope that was helpful in a way. And if you want to read more or read those pieces and other free writing pieces, go to spuntoday.com/free writing and check it out. You can, like and comment right there on those specific posts or others. Let me know what you think, etc., etc. That's all I got for you folks. If you want to stick around for a while and listen to some background tunes, as well as ways that you can help support the podcast, feel free to stick around.
The old timers, do you remember the names like Bronco Nagurski and Night Train Lane? Bulldog Turner, my man Sam Huff, in the snow and the mud, they were still real tough. Crazy Legs Hirsch, and remember Raymond Berry asked me if they had heart, and I'll say very. Paul, Christian, Buddy, Young Lady Moore, is them my dog, they seem to always score.
Would you like to receive a short email from me once a week? You know that feeling you have on a Monday at work when you have absolutely nothing to look forward to except for lunch? Have no fear, the Midday Monday Boost letter is here. In this short weekly newsletter, you will receive 5 things. 1 is a photograph of the week from a photographer, a podcast of the week. I listen to tons of podcasts, dozens and dozens of podcasts, hundreds of episodes, and I cherry pick the best ones, and I share them with you here. You'll also receive a video of the week, which could be anything from a rap battle to a TED Talk. You receive a quote of the week, something to let marinate in your mind, and a word of the week so that you and I can both step up our vocab. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, check it out. Check out the subscribe page at spuntoday.com/subscribe. Drop in your email address and you'll receive the very next one. For any writers or creatives out there, I have a questionnaire. It's a 5-question questionnaire that anyone is free to fill out. It's located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And what it is 5 open-ended questions related to your craft. It's things like what inspires you to write or create whenever you don't feel the inspiration to do so. What are your favorite apps or tools or tricks to trick yourself into getting into the mind state of actually creating? What inspires you, etc., stuff like that. And what I do with your responses is share them on a future episode of the podcast. Now, you can choose to remain anonymous. If you choose to, you have that option right there when you fill out the questionnaire. And if you do not choose to remain anonymous, I give you a shout out on the podcast and promote for free whatever it is that you have going on. So I appreciate you in advance for sharing that with me, as well as the rest of the listeners of the Spun Today podcast, which would stand to gain from you filling out the questionnaire. Now, you can help support the podcast in a myriad of ways. One way, which does not cost you anything and is most popular within the podcasting community, is by shopping on Amazon using my affiliate links banner. So the way that works is you go to spuntoday.com/affiliate links, or just click on the affiliate links tab at the top center of the page. And there you will see a banner for Amazon. You literally just click on that and it takes you to Amazon's website where you do your shopping like you normally do. It does not cost you anything extra, but Amazon will give me a kickback just for driving traffic to their website. So that would be a big help. It literally costs you nothing extra financially, just costs you a couple of extra clicks of your mouse before you do your Amazon shopping. The iTunes banner that's on that same page works the same way. So if you're purchasing music or movies or whatever it is on iTunes, feel free to go through my affiliate link portal there as well. If you want to make a one-time PayPal donation, feel free to do so. There's a PayPal donation button on there as well. Within that same tab, you'll also find a link to the Spun Today Viral Style store. Now, the Viral Style store is a store where you can get Spun Today merch, whether it's a coffee mug or a t-shirt that I personally designed. And spoiler alert, I'm no Ralph Lauren or, whoever designs Gucci stuff. But I did create the design of those shirts myself. I have a couple t-shirts on there. One that says, for example, Right Need Every Day, which is a play off of Snoop, Dre, and Nate Dogg's Smoke Weed Every Day. So it's Right Need Every Day with like a puff cloud of smoke behind it. I have a Podcast Versus Everybody t-shirt and just stuff like that. So check it out. The link to the Viral Style store is also there. You can also help support the podcast on a reoccurring basis if you become a Patreon supporter. Now, Patreon is pretty cool, and there's a little video explanation of what it is and how it works, but I'll try to do my best to summarize it here. Basically, you sign on to Patreon, which is a free service for your account, and you can support not just myself, but any other podcasters or creatives that also have Patreon pages. And you can choose to, for example, donate $1 to them on a per episode basis. So the Spun Today podcast has 2 episodes a month. So if you donate $1 to it, it'll be $2 a month, basically. And you set it up, and it just happens automatically on a reoccurring basis. There are 0 fees. You can cancel at any time. No hassle, no bullshit. And it's a cool way to help support, and is much appreciated. And also, it's not just like for example, a PayPal donation, which is just that, but through Patreon, it allows the creator, in this case being myself, to set up a reward system, if you will. So if you donate $1 per episode, you are considered a tier 1 supporter. If you donate $3 per episode, you are a second tier supporter, etc., etc. And it goes up to 4 tiers, and each tier gets different things. Like tier 1 gets a free Spun Today bookmark and a shout out on the podcast. Tier 3 gets those 2 things from tier 1, as well as a free writing piece that's not posted on my website or available to anyone else, etc., etc. So check that out if you will, and visit my Patreon page at Patreon, patreon.com/Spun Today. Another great, amazing way to help support the podcast is to rate and review it. This costs you absolutely nothing. Whether you listen on iTunes, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, on Pocket Casts, on Overcast, on Player FM, on Google Play, on YouTube, on Tumblr, or if you listen on Podbay or any other of your favorite podcast apps. Please rate and review the episode. It really is the number one way to help the show gain traction, gain exposure. You could also share it with friends and family and tell them, check out what this idiot is saying. Some of it is actually pretty good. Or it all fucking sucks and you should listen and laugh. But as long as you're listening, it would be much appreciated. So rate and review the podcast wherever it is that you listen. Follow me on Twitter or on Instagram at Spun Today. Like the Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Spun Today. Subscribe to my YouTube page as well. All podcast episodes are available on YouTube, as well as clipped versions. For example, with the Random Rant episodes, I speak about a bunch of different topics instead of having the full episode alone, which is also available on YouTube. But you also have snippets of the different topics broken up into more digestible chunks. So check that out. You can also support by checking out my book, Make Way For You, Tips for Getting Out of Your Own Way. It's a quick, short read if you're looking for some inspiration and motivation, and you can find out more about it at spuntoday.com/books. There you'll find a video of me telling you all how the book came to fruition, as well as a couple of audio excerpts. If you're interested, you can purchase it wherever books are sold: Kindle, iBooks, Kobo, in ebook or paperback format, which you can find on Amazon. Also, for being a Spun Today listener, I can also send you a free copy. right there on that same landing page at spuntoday.com/books. Drop in your email address at the bottom of the page, and I'll shoot you over a copy in the format of your choice. And that's all I got, folks. Thanks again for checking out this episode. And as always, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening.